just because somebody else hasn't done it does not mean that you can't do it. And so many of us stop ourselves from really going after our dreams simply because of what are they going to think? What are they going to say? How am I going to come across? And the list goes on and on. What's going on, guys? It's your host, Pena, with another episode for Walking Manifestator. And today's episode, number 7, is going to be something that I personally have learned so much from. And I want to share this because I do strongly believe that the only way you really learn something is by also teaching it and spreading that message. If you guys have ever heard Jim Quick, he is one of the best brain coaches in the industry. And he talks about, whenever you're learning something, you want to internalize it, but at the same time, you want to actually teach that message because you are actually embodying that 10 times more than you would if you just read something. So this subject is a very, very dear one for me, because this is what really shifted my entire paradigm. And I think I mentioned this to you all, but I'm actually working on my very first TEDx talk. I am so excited, but at the same time, it's made me really dial deep into our psyche, our overall psychology behind why and how we act the way that we do. And in this episode, I really want to talk about your internal dialogue and how your actual thoughts create your reality. So with that being said, I wanted to share with you a few things that I think sometimes we take for granted. So anything that is nowadays, it has been created by a thought. And humor me for a second, but the Wright brothers, they created the first airplane. However, when they first shared that idea, people looked at them like they needed to go to the asylum because they could not fathom thinking that an airplane, well, they didn't know it was called an airplane at that time, right? But that a metal piece could fly across from one end to the complete opposite side of the spectrum. And that was just not something they could understand. Therefore, people judged it. People did so many things to try and discourage them. But in the end, their belief was stronger than those doubts, and they were able to prevail. And we have airplanes nowadays. The same exact thing happened with Alexander Graham Bell. He was for those of you that don't know, he was the first creator of the landline. And people also looked at him as if he was crazy, right? They said, you're trying to communicate with somebody in the opposite side of the world. You are bonkers, right? But yet here we are in 2023, going into 2024, and we're able to now utilize this technology that has advanced so much through the years that now you're able to actually see somebody from one side of the spectrum to the other. But yet, if he would have allowed the people in his reality at that time to have affected him and his thoughts, who knows when that would have actually come into fruition. And I think that a lot of us, because of our upbringing, we didn't necessarily have the most encouraging support, right? And I think that a lot of the times, and this is not to say, really quick side note here, this is not to say that if you did have support, that means this couldn't have happened to you, because what you don't know, you don't know. And a lot of the times, people that have been in your life, whether you realize it or not, whether they realize it or not, they have also been conditioned by other determining factors of their life. Therefore, if you were in a situation where your parents maybe felt a certain way toward a certain food, maybe you weren't exposed to that food and therefore you thought that food was just not what you liked. But in reality, it wasn't that you didn't like it, it was just you were never exposed to that food. So the same thing goes whether it's you had that support or didn't have that support. And I think that for a lot of us, it comes down to the conditioning that we've had. So if I look back in time, and I mentioned this in one of the first episodes, I had this teacher. She was my French teacher back in 3rd grade. And I remember sharing with her, hey, I would actually love to be an attorney. And I remember she told me, that just seems a little bit too hard. I think that maybe you should try and focus on something else. Little old me, a 3rd grader at that point, didn't really realize what internally had happened. Now I know now I really do understand that she wasn't really coming from a place of harm, but that was like her limiting beliefs. That's what she understood to be acceptable, right? To be what I could actually achieve based on what she was seeing. So that is something that I use as an example for even my boys now, because I say, just because somebody else hasn't done it does not mean that you can't do it. And so many of us stop ourselves from really going after our dreams simply because of what are they going to think? What are they going to say? How am I going to come across? And the list goes on and on. But if we really sit back and ask ourselves, what do we want? And then we pay attention to that internal dialogue, this is where the magic really happens. Because for most of us, and I know I was part of that mentality, I used to think from a very limiting place. Because I didn't grow up without parents, because I grew up without parents, because I was living with my grandparents in a storage room, because I didn't have enough money, because of all the things I didn't have, I was growing up thinking that those things were normal, that these things were all there was to life. Therefore, if somebody would have shared with me, hey, your reality is actually created by those internal dialogues that you're having, I would have looked at them like, you are crazy. You need to go and get yourself checked. But the reality was, as life has progressed and as I've been able to really test both theories out, from coming from a very limiting mentality to now testing the theories through life, through everything that has been thrown in order for me to grow, it has allowed me to see that the reality is that whatever you're telling yourself in your thoughts right now, whether it's that doesn't make sense, whether it's, oh, who does that person think they are, whether it's, oh, I'm not worthy of love, I can never be happy, there's always scarcity of money, whatever those thoughts are that are not in a positive, constructive way, they're coming from a place of fear and lack. That is your ego essentially trying to protect you from something that it does not understand. And for me, one of the most profound realizations that I can really share with myself, with others, with people that I, love and am trying to overall just share a different perspective, it really is to pay attention to those thoughts in your mind. What is that internal story that you are constantly telling yourself? I know for the longest time, mine was, as I was like growing my business, I don't have time for that. I'm just so busy. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. And one of my coaches told me, like, are you saying you're busy just to feel like you're important? Or are you truly doing like productive things that are helping you grow? And that was such an aha moment for me, because I feel like so many of us traverse through life like, oh yeah, I'm so busy. But then like, if you really sit down and look at the things that you're doing, is it actually work? Or was it just you saying that as a mechanism to feel like you're actually doing things? So for me, when I realized that, I really took a step back to start realizing, where could I scale? Where could I improve? And for all of us, we have that. The moment that you think you already know everything, you've already lost at this game, because you don't. You can learn something from the person above you just as much as you can learn from the person below you. And in terms of below and above, we're just going to use that as a awareness, not necessarily even monetary, just an awareness, because some people are more aware than others. And this is where the awareness really comes into play, Because if you're not aware of what story you're telling yourself constantly, you're always going to get stuck on, I don't have enough time to be better. Oh, it's because I work. I work all the time and I work 8 hours a day. And by the time that I'm out of work, I don't want to go to the gym and I don't want to read a book and I don't want to do these things that I know are going to be conducive for my life, but I just don't want to do them because I am just too tired. If you really think about it, isn't that to a degree a self-sabotaging thought? Isn't that also coming from the ego? Isn't that also trying to keep you in what it knows? Because if you think about it, if we were created, okay, this is like going back into ancient times, but if we were created in a very primitive state of mind, which was just to hunt and gather, right? Go and kill, bring back food, caveman stage, all that kind of jazz. The reality is that we were constantly on a fear or flight basis. So now, as we've evolved, it's very interesting to notice that our ego still has those beliefs based on how our upbringing has been created. Because you can clearly see some kids that have been like raised through parents that were just very supportive and, oh, you got this, and, you know, just really encouraging. Sometimes they can be the most confident kids. Meanwhile, others that, you know, we've been told you can't do X, Y, and Z and how unworthy you are. Sometimes you grew up shy and you grew up ashamed of sharing really what you felt because you didn't feel worthy of sharing that idea or sharing whatever it is that you wanted to say. So as we become aware of where does that pattern come from, we can really start changing our lives. And this is what these like episodes are all about. I feel like sometimes we get so stuck on, yeah, well, I really want to do this, but there's somebody else out there that's already doing this. Like there's already a Tony Robbins out there. There's already a Joe Dispenza out there. There's already a Jim Quick out there. I'm just naming some of my like idols over here, right? But what if, and just humor me, what if the reason why you've gone through every single lesson in your life, because it was not a mistake, it was not happening to you, it was happening for you, but what if every single one of those lessons were actually the exact reason why you needed to go through them for you to share that message in whichever way you see fit, whether it's through your art, whether it's through traveling the world to share this message, whether it's through you becoming a teacher, whatever it is in life that you are going for. But what if all those things that happened were actually the reason why you're so unique to all these other people out there? Oftentimes, like one of my friends, he was sharing with me how he has like this passion for like jeans, that he wants to like create like custom jeans or whatever. And I'm over here like fascinated listening to his story. And I'm like, dude, you should totally go after that and like start creating your jeans. He's like, yeah, but I would be going against like the big ones on the market, right? And I'm like, so what? Like, go for it. Like, and just think about this. One route is going to lead you to the possibility of you obtaining that end result that you truly desire. The other one is going to lead you to the possibility of it not happening. But if you really think about it, I would rather try and die trying than be in a state where I didn't try and I was miserable because I didn't try and always thinking of the what if, what could have happened. And this is why I say that our thoughts are so important, because the more that you become aware of what story you're telling yourself, you can start changing those belief systems. I said this in the last episode and I'll share it again. Our mind cannot distinguish between what's real and what's unreal. And I'm sorry, I meant to say your subconscious. Your mind is like a bouncer at the club. Picture it that way, right? So it's like self-sabotage, come on in. Oh, shame, come on in. Happiness, wait. You're not allowed. But then if you really allow yourself to keep bringing these now new realities into your existence and you tell yourself, you know what if I'm just not used to doing it this way? and you continue down that path, your subconscious will not know between what's real and what's not. And eventually what's going to happen is that it will actually allow your mind to now make that a new norm. The more that you are conscious of what stories you're telling yourself and change the, oh, I don't do that, to, oh, I've never tried that, but let's give it a go. The more you're being open to the endless possibilities of the quantum field. And for me, this is something that has really shifted my reality, because I remember coming from a state of mind where I would always tell myself, man, I wonder what it would feel like to make $100,000 a year. That was like my, oh my gosh, if I could just make that happen, like that would be so amazing. And I remember 2.5 years ago, when that completely took a 10x approach. And I was like, what in the world? And I've shared this with you guys. I'm 26. I'm about to be 27 this coming month. And oh my gosh. I share this because I remember just thinking like, no, only the people that grew up with money, or with people that actually have like better coaches, or people that have the tools, are the only people that can do something. And that was a limiting belief. But yet the moment that I started to believe in something bigger than me, believe in the what if, believe in I haven't done it, let's try it, that is where that story really took off and has changed. And if you have something in your life that you're trying to go for, but the only thing stopping you is the fear, what are they going to think about you? What are they going to say about you? How are you going to come across to people? Stop worrying about that. Think about what I just mentioned and what many people out there say. The brightest minds were questioned first before people actually started to lead. That's what a leader does. You are a trailblazer. You are blazing through your own trail. You're not the same as anybody else because you are uniquely beautiful in your own way. But by starting to condition your thoughts into really what you vision yourself as, this is what's going to have this tremendous impact in your life. And I was listening to this audiobook today, and it was really inspiring as well, because it was sharing how this person had essentially been able to grow his entire business out of actually asking himself, like, what is my vision? And it's like, yeah, a lot of people, they have like a goal, but they don't really ask themselves, like, what are the steps to get to that goal? And so many people think it's a cliche, but in reality, like, it's true. If you don't have a set, clear intention of where you're wanting to go, like, you have no roadmap. And as I was listening, I was like, he's literally talking about manifesting. He's literally talking about a vision board. And this is why I think it's so interesting that so many people think manifestations are just like some crazy taboo stuff that, oh, that's just so unrealistic. These people are weird. But reality shows that anything that is now came from your mind. Anything that is came from your dreams. So if that's something that is true, why not give it a go? Why not sit down and really set a clear intention for where you're wanting to go? This is going to allow you to really get clear on your thoughts in what it is that you see yourself as and what it is that you want to see your end result as. The more clear you get, the more concise you get with what it is that you're constantly telling yourself, the easier it's going to be for you to propel forward. The more you tell yourself you're unworthy, the more you tell yourself that you're never going to find that special person, the more you tell yourself that you are a single parent struggling, the more of that reality that you're not looking to associate with, the more that that's going to happen and just become your reality and your norm. But if you sit back and just say, okay, I see what's happening, but you know what? I'm going to sit here and write what it is exactly that I picture myself in this future version of me, and really get comfortable with that and start believing in that. My gosh, things just happen in such a beautiful way. life just gives you synchronicities after synchronicities, and you realize that everything truly is happening for you. And I'm not saying that when this happens that you're just always on this like cloud nine, never mad and never going to get upset again, because I'd be lying to you. But here's the thing, and Bob Proctor talks about this. When you are now in a state of awareness, you see when something is happening in your surroundings and you get mad, but then you catch it and you shift. You pivot out of that. Maybe somebody is saying something rude to you and maybe you want to react, but then you become aware of that thought that you're going to react with and you pivot out of that. You see, there's a difference between actually ignoring something and suppressing it and becoming aware of something and moving forward from it. When you ignore it and suppress it, it becomes these now bigger problems because you never dealt with them. And this is how, lung problems can happen and back pain can happen and all these things because it's suppressed emotions. Like, that's what it is. Your body is the one thing you cannot lie to. So by becoming aware of your thoughts and not ignoring it, you are truly able to start setting yourself free and creating a path of least resistance. At the end of the day, I wholeheartedly believe we are all here to truly learn how to be a better version of ourselves. If you are constantly in this mentality of having to compete, you're going to receive a lot of resistance. However, if you're just in a state of actually being and wanting to grow and be the best version of you, then shall be. And you know what's interesting? And I'm going to wrap up my thoughts here. A lot of the most successful people in this world that are genuinely happy, like not just filthy rich, but miserable, like actually happy, and they have like a full balance throughout, their family, their income, their businesses that they're growing. They will share with you the most valuable information, and they're literally putting it out there day by day by day because they want more people to be aware of it. Bob Proctor says it so beautifully. He says, if I can literally encapsulate all this information and shoot everybody in the butt with it, he says it, not my words, I would 100% doing it because it's like knowing the cure to cancer and wanting to share it with everybody. When you become aware of those thoughts and you change that dialogue that you're constantly carrying, you're truly able to become a walking manifestator. You're always manifesting, always. Now, whether you're actually doing it consciously or unconsciously, now that's a choice that you have because we do have free will. But when you become aware of the true power you hold, that is truly such a profound realization. The law of vibration will go hand in hand with the law of attraction. So many people say like, oh yeah, I understand the law of attraction, but yet when they go out into the world and they're talking to people, the way they're communicating with them is not from a place of servicing, not from a place of wanting to share with them in a humble way. It's more from a place of judgment. So become aware of your thoughts. I'm going to leave you with this quote by Robin Sharma, and it says, ideation without execution is delusion. So at the end of the day, once you have a concise idea of what your thoughts are, where you're trying to go, what is your end result, then now you take action and you start tracing that back into what it is that your goal is. In our next episode, we're going to talk about goal setting, because even though that is such a cliche conversation that many of us are like, oh my gosh, like goals, yes, yes, yes. It's about perspective, and everybody can share something with one another that I feel can help. So with that being said, if you are interested in also sharing your thoughts, please feel free to send us an email. All our information is on the podcast. You can send us an email to info@walkingmanifestator.com. We would love to hear your thoughts. If there's a particular subject that you want us to cover, please let me know. And as always, I am sending you many blessings. I am so thankful for you allowing me the time today to listen to this perspective. And I will talk to you on the next one. Have a great day.